As an estranged parent, and even one who's lived all sides of estrangement myself, I know that when the holidays or birthdays roll around, the silence can be deafening. We've spent our entire lives being who and what everyone else needed us to be. We've been who everyone expected us to be. We've been the fixer. But what happens when those roles change? Maybe you're like me and you've spent many years managing the chaos of toxic family dynamics, some that you may not have realized, especially up front, were actually toxic. Maybe you're one of many estranged parents who don't yet know what happened, but still have a hole in your heart where the relationship once existed. Or maybe you're in a different phase entirely where you're healing from toxic relationships and trying to rebuild after a divorce. It is so common in all of these situations to be left with a question that I don't think any of us were prepared for. Now what? We spent so much time doing all the things and then looking backward and wondering why that I think a lot of us forget to look forward. For me, I didn't even know how to look forward or dream anymore. We had been so deep in the trenches of chaos for so long, I didn't even know those things were possible. But it turns out they were. Today I want to show you how to start reclaiming some of the identity and space that trauma may have taken from you. We're moving past all the whys and the guilt trips and the regrets and starting to talk about your next chapter and how you get to decide what it's going to look like, even if you're like I was and it feels impossible to dream at this moment. Let's start by talking about why it's so hard to dream. Well, when you've been through hard things, especially multiple versions of hard things like I have been, that trauma changes us. It changes how our brains operate. It changes how we see the world. And it changes how we process information. One of the biggest things that happen is that kind of trauma keeps us stuck in the here and now and the immediate. We're always on high alert, looking out for our own safety, and we're trained to look for threats instead of opportunities. And then there's the guilt factor. For years, our identity was probably tied to being a mother, a wife, a peacemaker. We thought we were doing what we were supposed to do and that all was well. Yet without those roles to play, you may feel a little aimless or even guilty for wanting something different for yourself. Even if your adult children have moved on, that's heightened by about 1,000-fold if your now adult child has put some boundaries in place and chosen to be no contact with you, even if you know what happened or if you don't. It's time to turn those things around. I've got 3 steps to share with you that you can start doing right away. These are not a smorgasbord where you get to just pick and choose what you want. In truth, you have to do them all. Step 1 is a joy audit. Now, there was a time in my life where even just the name of that would cause me to bristle and my nervous system would go into orbit. That's how far away joy felt. If you're in somewhere even close to that place, don't try and plan the next 10 years. It's going to be impossible. Start with the next 10 minutes. I want to encourage you to take a minute to step back and think of one thing that makes you feel like you. Not the healed version of you, not the perfect version of you, just the person who likes or maybe even used to like gardening or taking pictures of beautiful things or taking a quiet walk at sunset. Then we'll move to step 2. The what if exercise. Instead of asking, what if this goes wrong? Or wallowing in those, I can't do this, I don't have enough time, this is why this is never going to work. That's all survival thinking, by the way. I want you to flip that around and say, what if I actually could enjoy my Tuesdays? Or what if I didn't have to explain my choices to anyone? Or what if I could find just one tiny way to bring some of those lost pieces of myself back to the surface? And then step 3 is using small bits of agency. Pick just one thing that is 100% your choice and then do it. No compromises, no excuses. Go find a way to play in the dirt, to take those pictures, to go for that walk, or to do whatever fills your bucket. This matters so much. The first time I did this, I was so wound up in knots. It was all I could do to stop at a beautiful, peaceful place on my way home from somewhere else that had beautiful gardens. I pulled out my phone and I started taking pictures of whatever was there. I didn't have any fancy equipment. I didn't plan anything out. But with every click of the shutter, a spark was ignited that started to wake up my soul. That's when I started to remember who I am and that there's more to my life than just this trauma or these big events that we were living through. Your next chapter isn't going to be written in a day, maybe not even in a week. It's actually written in these very small moments of reclaiming yourself and your right to choose and your right to fight against the hard things. In my last video, I talked about why we get stuck in these kind of loops and what we need to do to get out of them. This one is about how you start moving forward. I'd love to hear from you. If you had one guilt-free hour today, or maybe even just 10 minutes to do anything you wanted to do today, what would it be? Let's talk about those things in the comments and start reclaiming those small pieces of ourselves. If you liked this video and want to hear more, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to find out what comes next in this process of reclaiming yourself and building a life that you actually want to live, even if you've been through some really hard things or life didn't turn out how you expected.